Okay, Damien. My question for you, number one, is what from your awareness is motivation, actually?
Hmm. So, from my awareness, um, motivation it's a movement, and it's a movement that comes from somewhere and that goes somewhere. So it's like the reason for the movement, let's say, the
Mm,
cause of the movement. And I would say that for me, the cause of the movement for any kind of motivation, whatever we do, whatever it's about, if it's about professional life, about, just being alive, about relationship, or about more something personal, spiritual, our own, exploration. It comes from one question, which is why,
yes.
and and the why is why we're here. Why do we exist? So this is existential for me. In this sense, it questions our existence and
Yes.
why. So when we know our why, and I know it's also a trendy thing, is know your why. Maybe you're aware there's a lot of, I don't know, coaching and I don't know how they call it, but manifestation teaching that use this
Yep.
kind of template to know your why. So when you know your why, it means you have, I don't know, you can summarize in one sentence, what is your, the reason to be.
Yeah.
Then you can always use it to fuel your intentions. So that would be kind of what for me is motivation. But it's as well a way to understand that when there is no motivation or less motivation, maybe it's because what we are doing, it doesn't match our why.
Yeah.
So for me, I see it as I see a strong connection here between the why and the motivation. Um,
Yes.
Now, I just also want to say that you have many different, perspectives or point of perception you can have on motivation. And as I lived in India for a long time, and at some point I was Advaitist. So Advaita
Mhm.
in India, it's like the school of non-duality. So
Yes, I
it's
know
these
this.
things about not doing and not being the doer, not identifying with the doer. So in its, let's say, toxic expression or in its misunderstood,
Hmm.
perspective, it means that you do nothing. So it means that, for example, you don't need motivation because
Hmm.
motivation works with the why, and the why works with the ego. The
Mm.
ego has a sense of individuality. You know, it's also vanity. So I
Hmm.
try just to connect few dots. Motivation is also vain, in the sense that,
Mm.
but in a
Nice.
beautiful sense of vanity. Vanity means I'm special.
Mm.
That's what vanity means. Yeah, vanity means I'm special. I deserve to be here. I matter. So my why matters. Therefore, I have a motivation to experience my why. And I have a justification to do so. So from the Advaita non-dualistic perspective, um, motivation, when it comes from the ego, so from a sense of I am something, I am Damien, and I want that, um, whatever we identify with, then this motivation generates karma.
Mm.
Yeah. And what is karma? Karma, it means it's a movement. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a movement of energy that moves out of the center, out of stillness, because it comes
Hmm.
from a desire that is identified with, something that is personal, not impersonal or transpersonal. And therefore, it creates this movement, and this movement eventually seeks balance and a resolution, and it seeks to go back to stillness again. So it's like, to throw a pebble in the river or in the water, and then you have this ripple effect. And the ripples, obviously, it takes a while to find again the stillness. So that's, the way that, for example, in India, Advaita sees karma. And so it would see motivation as actually probably as the cause of all suffering.
Wow.
or not the cause, but the expression, the consequence, because there are no cause and consequence, but one of the expression actually of misery, because as the Buddhist will tell you that desire is as well, the root of all, suffering.
Yes.
Because it's the same, desire, motivation. So it's one perspective. I don't say I agree with it. I just say that it's interesting to also have a really radical perspective on.
I love it.
Motivation.
I love the plot twist. It's so good.
But then, then you can also see it more as, I would say the Western way, which is, or let's say, probably, everybody read like The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho, kind of classic. So your personal legion. Yeah, that's all this concept that, we're here and our story is the hero's journey. And we're here to bring our code, our light, and we're here to do some work. Yeah, so light working. Which means we're here to have an impact. We are here because we have a purpose. So now the whole school of, soul purpose, life purpose, this is what probably uses motivation, as a compass. So it means when you're not motivated, it's probably not in alignment with your life or soul purpose. And it's also a fuel, right? It's the reason why you wake up in the morning and why you move your ass to do something. So that's another polarity that is also really radical. It's like the other polarity. So the Advaita would say that you have no, or I don't have a personal purpose, but that there is a greater purpose. So it's not that it's purposeless. And then the other school, which is more, this all, Western way, which is really based on vanity, that, everybody is special, everybody is unique, everybody is like, wow. This is working more on the personal purpose. And it's, I think that there is something in the middle somehow, or there is a point of perception that embraces, these two aspects, because, I think it's really limited to think that you have a purpose. So let's say a why, and I have, and every 7 billion people have. Yeah. But then how does it, cohabit match, or, how does it work together,
And how does it synchronize?
Yeah, because then this is, and I think this is, the important question about motivation is, if motivation is the expression of a strong desire, and the desire is somehow born from a knowing, an inner knowing of why we're here, then it's it doesn't have any sense of ethics inbuilt, So the desire can be for the benefit of all, whatever it means. Most of the time, a desire is not is for the benefit of all, with our benefit as a priority, kind of,
sure.
Or a specific group of people, and so therefore, this is why I think that the school of Advaita in India, that's where it was born from. It was born from observing, like a long time ago, humans that had a lot of psychic energy. They had a really strong willpower. Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
speaking at a time where people could, you know, keep their focus on at one point,
Yes.
so what we call, let's say,
Yeah.
one-pointed concentration. They could keep it, you know, for like thousands of years without faltering,
Yes.
without distraction, not going to pee, you know, just focus
Singular point awareness. Yeah.
for a long period of time, right? So then most of the time their will would prevail, right?
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
they would dream, you know, the living image they would hold in their awareness.
Yeah. So it's like a
And
shift from motivation to will.
yeah, but it's connected, right? Because, you know, to stand 1,000 years, or let's say in the Vedic example history, you have one of the Asur, so which means it's one of the greatest yogi, but with a big ego that wanted to play God. Yeah, but like a great yogi. So his name was Hiranyakashipu. He's considered to be the greatest of these kind of beings. And, you know, in English, it was translated as demons, but they are not demons. They are actually like, you know, it's like Star Wars. They're like super Jedis. And then eventually they say, hey, you know what? I want to play God as well. I want to try.
Yeah.
I want to try to rule. Yeah. And so he could stand, you know, 100,000 years of our current years in one, you know, one-pointed concentration. So just to give us an idea, you know, that at that time, when this kind of consciousness in a physical body was able to focus as that much, yeah, then their will would prevail. And so you need a serious motivation for that, right? So if it's not motivate, no, but right. So this is motivation.
Yeah, like really this sort of oscillation between will and then motivation is the top up. It's sort of like the in breath, out breath. I also see motivation as this like initial sort of maybe a spark. But I love what you're saying, like, okay, but what's the intention behind that? Is it self-serving? Is it from vanity?
You know, from one really self-righteous perspective, you could judge it, you know, and say, oh, it's better service to others than service to self. But actually, as soon as we speak of service, we use the word service. We're speaking about being a servant. So, you know, we are actually speaking about a form of slavery.
That's interesting.
You know, and I know the word service myself, you know, it's, I used it so many years, you know, as a, oh yeah, service is, you know, but this is extremely twisted morphogenetic field, you know, because when you see, you know, like even today in our world, like example, where I live in Guatemala, the people who live here, the Mayan people, when you tell them thank you, yeah. So for example, in the West, they would say, hey, that's I don't know, how would you say thank you, and then they would say, yeah, it's good, or it doesn't matter, or you know. But
you're
here,
welcome.
what they say is, you're welcome, and here they say para servirle, which means to serve you. So that's a really submissive, you know, submissive greed that is imprinted, you know. So I am at your service, like you're the boss, you're the one with the money. And I think that's also part of the motivation, you know, like if our motivation is to serve, and I tell you that a lot of people will say, yeah, that sounds really good, I'm motivated to serve. It basically means that at, you know, unconscious, subconscious level, we have actually a desire to be a slave.
To submit, to be submissive,
because we
to
are
a dominant.
Because we have always been, I mean, you know, lifetimes and lifetimes. And when probably I would say that in a more sovereign and in a more healthy expression of motivation, what we really want probably is to share.
Yes. I was going to ask you, if it's not service, what is it? But sharing feels
but then
good.
you know,
Like co-creation,
and it feels
sharing.
the same, you know. It feels like, oh yes, right, it's the same, but it's not the same.
Yeah, right. It's because
it's not
the sharing
same, you know?
is speaking from a place like I'm also an authority in my own right, rather than this serving. I do what you say,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also, there's no pleaser there. You know, you share your thing, and people take it. They don't take it. They're happy. They're not happy. But it came from, I'm confident. I am
Mm-hmm.
in integrity, and from this place, I share who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you take it. You don't take it. But service, it's always kind of obligation sometimes. And look, we polarize the word service to self, service to others. So it got hacked,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then again, it's this taking side. Oh yeah, but you are service to other, or you are service to self. Sharing, there is not this sharing to self or sharing to others. Sharing it has it at least yet, it doesn't have this polarization that come from a corruption of the original meaning. But if you go in the past, the word service, it has always been a slave to a master. Always. That's where
Yeah.
it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And even, for example, in Old French, the root of the word slave, which was serf, is exactly
Yes.
the same root than the word for service.
Yes.
In Latin, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
So then, you just look at that and you're like, oh, it's funny that all the new age movements speak about, service, let's be some
Service.
service. And
So much. And this
so, but
absolute polarization between service to self, service to other, and one is deemed as good, one is deemed as bad. This is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, but isn't service to, if it is using that language, service to other is still self, because what is self, right? It is still self. It's still
and
sharing, it's still co-creating.
it's not fair, kind of, I would say, or maybe it's
Mm,
fair, but it's just that there is this, it's like the karma, it's seeking some balance. It's like, oh, I give and then I receive, or but so there is no direct reciprocity. When I share,
yeah, yeah,
when I share, there is no need for reciprocity, because actually, if I choose to share, it means that this is, I'm at the same time I'm offering and sharing,
yeah,
I am receiving, the joy of sharing.
yeah.
And so it's not something I get, in heaven, or when I die, or I get brownie points, it's not like that. If I share, it's like, no, that's, it's in the moment. This is an expression of love, and
Yeah,
I'm good with it. I have no expectation,
yeah.
to
So
get something back.
yeah, I'm really hearing you on this actually. How even just this one word shift has already like shifted the why, even if we are going to use that language. And so that does lead on to my next question, which you've already touched on heaps, but I'd like to speak to it. What then, from your awareness, fuels this sharing, this motivation to share then, if we use this language?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. So I would say that, it's probably most of the time an expression of love.
For
It can
sure.
be a tough love, and it
Yeah.
can be also sometimes, let's say we would call a negative expression of love, like anger, like
Mm-hmm.
grief,
Sure. Sure.
sadness, fears, even. I don't want to say all is love, but in some way, yes. If love is just this, you know, this frequency that aims to connect,
Yeah.
let's say,
Like the
and
fabric somehow.
to experience each other, let's say, if that
Yeah.
will be a broad and wide, definition of love. Um, and therefore, everything would be an expression of love. So I think the motivation to share can come from a lot of places. So, and it probably will be an expression of love. So there is a chemistry, I would say, when I see personally, there is an inner chemistry in my body that I experience as excitement. Like the young child that just created something and is so excited to share it with mama and papa. Hey, look what I did. So where does this come from? So yes, there's a part of the ego that is kind of proud of having, going through a creation process, and that kind of a sense of completion. So of course, it comes from there as well. Definitely comes from vanity. It has to come from vanity. Because if I don't feel at some level vain and special, why would I share anything?
Why would I do anything? Exactly. If I'm just part of this huge, bigger thing, what is the function of me as this minuscule part of all creation? Sure. So it's like this vanity is sort of like the spark a little bit, like, okay, but still,
so the vanity
it's like the
is not a
creative
shadow.
impulse. Yeah.
I mean, it has a shadow side, but it's also, like, it depends what story we are telling ourselves. Yeah. So, for example, Damien, personally believe that we each carry different codes.
Yeah.
What I call an original codex.
Yes.
Which is somehow that in our first experience as an individualized consciousness, so let's say a long time ago, not necessarily on this planet, we came as an embodiment of purpose. We came to hold specific frequencies, specific grids to allow and support, the holographic expression that we call reality, and to create the playground, to give meaning to life forms, to nature. So this original code and codex, I do feel that we carry it in our DNA, in our consciousness. It's probably deep in a vault. It has different level of expression.
Yes.
And so this, once we tap into this, for me, this original why, which is not necessarily the why I'm here in a human body in 2022, but it is why in the first place, the source allowed a consciousness to be, localized, let's say, in a quantum field, and kind of feeling separated from the others. So there is a reason there. And I would say that that's probably one of the best reasons to share. What ignites and initiates the sharing. It's to share access of our codex, our code, so that it can flow, through our field, through our words, our actions, our gazing, our feelings, our thoughts, emotions, prayers. So then the unique code we carry is fueling the different streams of consciousness that we call reality. And therefore we are weaving, I would say, we are weaving the tapestry of light and sound and frequencies, and we are all weaving it together. And then, at another level, we are kind of, at the same time we are weaving the background, we are playing at the foreground, in front of the stage.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would say that, the motivation is fueled, or the sharing, let's say, is fueled by, just by this original code that, has a reason to be, because it's actually sustaining the playground itself. So for example, there are some theories that say that all the insects, for example, they hold a specific code, which maybe is just a chemical process or a specific cellular interaction that then is used in other maybe animal bodies, or plant bodies, or human bodies. So therefore, that in the concept that we are all connected in a human body, where we have so many complex processes of constant transformation, we are actually holding codes from all parts of nature, taking it from some plants, from some minerals, from some animals, from some insects.
Like messengers, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so they hold the code for us to be able to experience, you know, a physical holographic template body that
Yes.
is kind of advanced. But I do believe as well that ourselves, we hold the code for them being, you know, the plants, the minerals, the animals.
The evolution, right?
We
Of
fuel,
consciousness.
exactly, you know. So it's,
Yeah.
you know, for me, this is the way that somehow I perceive reality, that we are weaving the tapestry, and we are also animating, you know, what is represented on the tapestry. And at the same time, we're observing the tapestry.
Yes.
So, you
Weaving,
know, we are
observing, creating.
exactly,
Yeah.
and playing, you know.
Yes. Playing,
So we
evolving,
are present at
co-creating.
all levels. So for me,
Yeah,
motivation
sure.
there, the motivation is fueled by, I would say, the awareness that that we have a role to play. After maybe it's not you know, it's not to change the world, or it's not to save the world, or maybe it's not even to make this world a better place. Maybe not. Maybe it's just, you know, to experience ourselves.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Experience ourself, stemming also all the way back as you use in your work, the original codex. And I'm also hearing as well with this sharing, it really feels like a creative impulse, the evolutionary impulse. And that impulse doesn't take a necessarily same form as something else expressing in a different body or a plant in a different kingdom. And yet there's still an impulse. There's still this life that wants to be animated, like life wants to live. It feels like this verb of
Yeah.
becoming. So the final question is, what has assisted you in staying motivated or devoted to your path? What has assisted you in fueling your own ray of will to
Hmm.
stay devoted to your path? Which, from one sense, is staying motivated, right? But I'm seeing it's more
Yeah,
like
yeah, I hear you.
the will to share.
Yeah. So, I would say first, personally, the thing that matters the most for me, it's a daily practice.
Yeah.
So which means it's a daily space of introspection. It can be whatever, you know, it can be meditation, yoga, qigong, workout. It doesn't matter. But for me, it's the devotion starts there. It means it's and I barely miss a day. That's my role. So of course, if I'm in an airplane, I will do something short, or if I'm really, you know, unable to do it. But I would say since more than 20 years, I don't miss. You know, I wake up before sunrise and I do whatever practice. Sometimes it's shorter, but for me, this is where I can connect, you know, to my why.
Yeah.
And it's also there where I can, you know, go in between. So for example, and I think for this last minute, that's what I would like to share is you say you have a breath between the will and the motivation. Yeah. So let's take this example. So, so the motivation is the knowing of why I'm here and what I want to do. And it's the energy that pushes it. And the will is kind of, you know, the wheel, you know, the wheel as WHEEL, you know, on the boat, you know, oh, where do we go? You know, choosing direction. So now for the way I see it is that we need a third anchor point. So for me, a breath that is polarized, so in, out, in, out, in, out, it's entropic.
Yes.
You know,
Sure.
so if you do, for example, fire breathing, you know, like the whole time, well, bueno, you know, you're not going to stay really long because it will deplete life force.
Sure.
So you need the third point, which is somehow, you know, let's say phasing in and then going back to, let's say, reconnecting to maybe let's call it our eternal self or 0 point, you can call it the way you want, and then phasing out, you know, and then you start again, you know, so you connect to the 0 point and you phase in, and so, you know, like a breath retention. And I think that to sustain will and motivation on the long term, so it means also to sustain joy, to sustain, and it's okay to doubt. I doubt a lot. I doubt more about the direction, but I never doubt that whatever happens, there's a chance to experience beauty, to experience, you know, compassion, love. So there's always some excitement to be alive. And I do believe that on the long term, this sustenance comes from me taking every day a time where I reconnect not to my will, not to my motivation, but to something that is in between. So you can call it the heart, the core, the 0 point. And this is where there is a regeneration.
Yes.
So it's like you refill the levels, you know.
Yes.
So when you refill the levels, then you don't lose that much energy. You know, you kind of limit the entropic force.
Yes. And then it's not people, needing this like quicker boost, and then needing quick, like the
because
whole.
Otherwise you burn out, you know, otherwise you end up in the rat race, you know, and also you probably end up being manipulated. So it means you end up tuning with the will of someone else, you know, I don't know, a boss, a partner.
Without your own,
you know,
without your own
and then
energy.
You didn't take the time to actually check if it was actually where you wanted to go.
Appropriate
so for me to
is the word that comes. It's what you use as well.
Exactly. So for me, it's like that's how I keep motivated. But for me, it's not only to keep motivated, it's I keep connecting and rejuvenating what is before motivation and what is before the will, or if you want, what is in between. So it means that it's going back to, you know, a kind of stillness, a kind of deep connection. It's about grounding, it's about sourcing, it's about, you know, like disconnecting from our localized fields. You know, I guess that's why also a lot of people like psychedelics, because it kind of helps them to
meeting place beyond the busyness to the bigger picture. So we are out of time already. I want to thank you so much. Please share your information so I can share it with people as well, how people can find you.
If you want to reach out, and you can go to my website, which is called Magic Vibrations Healing. So www.magicvibrationshealing.com. And you can as well there contact me by email. And I think it's the easiest way to actually get in touch with me. So the YouTube is called as well Magic Vibrations Healing.
Great.
That's as well the name of the channel.
Awesome.
And thank you, Sophie, for speaking about this nice subject. And, you know, it's always something new coming out. So I had prepared nothing, and I see that there's definitely something interesting that came out of it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really, a dance. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.